Hello, everyone, and welcome to my 2024 Round 2 draft grades. I did Round 1 yesterday. I highly recommend you check that out. Now we're moving over to Round 2. I'm going to go through all 32 picks of the second round and give them all a grade 1 through 10 based off of my personal opinion, personal evaluation of all these players, and evaluation of these teams and where they currently stand, how much they need certain positions. So let's just jump into it with the Buffalo Bills making their first pick of the draft with Keon Coleman, the Florida State University wide receiver. This guy is a lump of clay that you could really mold into anything. The only thing is, I feel like this draft class is so loaded with wide receivers. I don't know if I would take that as the first pick of the second round. I don't. I like Coleman's upside a lot, but I really hate his floor. Okay? This isn't a draft class where I feel a need to take a huge risk on a player like Coleman when there's other players available that could give you still a very high ceiling while also providing you with a very safe floor. I'm not a big fan of Coleman's game. I like route runners, and he's not a great route runner. He has the physical ability to be great in this league, but I'm just not a big fan of him. Taking him as a team trying to compete right now like Buffalo is, I know they want a receiver, but I don't think this was the right pick for them. They should be going for someone safer because they're trying to win right now. One of these safer receivers that also has a remarkably high ceiling is Ladd McConkey from Georgia. He's a player I like much more than Coleman, and he's a player who will do a lot for the Chargers. Now, I would have preferred if they went with someone who might have had more of like that game-breaking ability. I really like what McConkey offers as a consistent option for your offense. However, this Chargers team, they are really lackluster in the receiving core, especially going into this pick. So I would have really liked for them to go with someone who has more of like those game-breaking features. But I do think this pick shows how much confidence Harbaugh has in Quentin Johnston, last year's first-round pick, because McConkey complements Johnston's game really well. Where Johnston lacks, McConkey is very, very strong. And I think those two together, assuming that you can make Quentin Johnston work out in this league, should be a very dynamic duo for Herbert to pass the ball to. Even if Johnston isn't great, I still really like McConkey as a separator. He's a very smart player. He runs routes very well. And, he's a tough guy, too, okay? McConkey is a player I am a fan of. I am. I don't know if I love him here specifically, but I don't think this is a reach or anything. I thought this was a good pick. This pick, though, on the other hand, I am not a big fan of. I'm not. Rook or Horohoro, I definitely pronounced that right, but the Clemson defensive tackle. He shows some upside as, a pass defender. I don't think this guy is worth a top 3 pick in the second round, though. I'm sorry. I'm just going to keep it a buck right here. He's someone who, again, I like his upside, but there are way better defensive tackles available, even if you are looking for a pass rushing specialist. To me, this was the Falcons reaching on someone that they thought was their guy because they feel a desperate need to make up for the pick that they screwed up earlier in the draft the day prior by picking Penix instead of an edge rusher. They heard the media backlash and they were like, okay, yeah, we need to get pass rushers. And they tried to make up for screwing up that 8th overall pick for the rest of the draft. This was one of their efforts, and I thought that this was a very, very poor one. He is very far from ready to play in this league. I also thought edge rusher would have been a smarter play for them. I don't hate their interior defensive line, so taking an interior defensive lineman I thought was just a mistake. I'm not a fan of this player's game. I don't think the need is really there to the extent where you need to reach on a player like him. And there were just better players for what Atlanta was looking for. So I really don't like this, especially with Jer'Zhan Newton still on the board. I mean, what are you doing taking this guy? I really don't get it. Speaking of Jer'Zhan Newton and him still being on the board, this is good value for him, right? This is about where I think he should be going, but I did not expect him to actually fall to this point. All right? Newton's hand fighting ability is remarkable. I mean, you don't see interior defensive linemen that work their hands quite like he does. So why am I giving it only a 5 out of 10? Well, right now, the Washington Commanders have a former first round pick in Montez Sweat. Or sorry, not Montez Sweat, Daron Payne. Montez Sweat is gone, but he was also a former first round pick. Then they also have another former first round pick in Jonathan Allen. And then they have an early second rounder in Phidarian Mathis, who I bet most of you forgot about. And now they take another early second rounder, another interior defensive lineman. Everyone I named was an interior defensive lineman that they took with a top 50 pick. What are they doing, right? At some point, they got to understand, hey, our edge rushers are Dorrance Armstrong and Lord knows who. Maybe we should be taking an edge, right? We want to stack up on the defensive line. That doesn't mean just interior D linemen. Unless you're going to waltz out there with a front of 2 3-techs and 2 1-techs. I mean, the goal line package is going to go crazy for this team, but you don't win games just on the goal line, okay? You need to be able to play some base defense, and I don't understand the need to load up on so much depth on the interior defensive line when you just have nobodies on the edge. Nobodies. And maybe the plan is to move him to the edge. I could see that working, but I mean, there's edge rushers available. I just don't get this pick. I really don't. Unless they find themselves trading away either Jonathan Allen or Daron Payne, this pick makes no sense to me. And this pick makes sense. The Patriots needed a receiver, but I think they absolutely took the wrong guy. I like Polk as a gimmicky, one-trick pony, right? That's what I like Ja'Lynn Polk as. He's a very, very good 50-50 ball receiver. That is it. There's no reason that should be going in the top 40 when the wide receiver class is this stacked. Okay? There were so many better receivers. In fact, I believe they drafted someone later on who was a far better receiver. Ja'Lynn Polk has no business being top 40. No business being top 40. Great 50-50 ball guy. That's all you're getting. That's all you're getting from Ja'Lynn Polk, in my opinion. This doesn't excite me. This is a receiver core that needs an established wide receiver one. And in order to be an established wide receiver one, you need to be good at multiple things. Not just a 50-50 ball. That's something you look for later on, right? If Ja'Lynn Polk is there round 5, okay. Yeah, I'll take Ja'Lynn Polk. Because Ja'Lynn Polk, in round 5, I'll take someone that just offers us the 50-50 ball ability on the goal line. Okay? That's cool. I'll take an A.T. Perry in the 5th round. Ja'Lynn Polk, though, went in the top 40, even though, once again, I only see him as a 50-50 ball guy. That shouldn't be going top 40. That really shouldn't. When the Patriots need a complete receiver, a wide receiver one, this just absolutely cannot be their guy. The need for a receiver is there, and that's why I gave it a 4 out of 10, but they absolutely took the wrong guy. Now, the 38th pick. A lot of people hating on this one, and believe it or not, my 6 out of 10 here is a more optimistic outlook than others. I get the personality concerns, and I get the concerns about stamina and all that other stuff, 100%. But pairing a gap filler who could also chase down outside zone, basically just the ideal run-defending interior defensive lineman, pairing him in T'Vondre Sweat with Jeffrey Simmons, who has just been a dominant threat even without complementary guys on the interior defensive line, yeah, should be exciting. Should be really exciting because this guy will eat double teams while Jeffrey Simmons just works off of opposing offensive linemen. Just simply uses his hands, uses his great technique to get past them. I really like Jeffrey Simmons, and I think someone like T'Vondre Sweat being on the same defensive line as him really allows you to maximize him. Now the Rams. They took Braden Fisk. And to me, it's just very clear chasing a Aaron Donald replacement. And yeah, he's a speedy guy and he uses his hands well. Okay, cool. Right? That's the Aaron Donald like traits, but this guy can't eat up double teams like Aaron Donald could. Not even close. However, you have guys on the rest of that defensive line that could eat up the double teams, and that's going to allow Fisk to really show himself off. I think he can be a pretty good player for the Rams because of the players he has around him. However, I still think this is a reach. This is not a player I think is worth a top 40 pick at all whatsoever. I still like the fit, though. I like the situation around him, and I think they're in a good position to maximize a player like Fisk. Now, the first 10 out of 10, and this is really the first pick that I like him in love with. The Eagles went out and took Cooper DeJean with the 40th pick. This guy had no business falling out of the top 30. This is a player I saw as top 7 in the class. Yet, he fell. And Howie Roseman did what Howie Roseman does. He takes the players that fall. And Cooper DeJean, he fell. He's a very good player. Great run defender. Very good zone player. Eagles run a lot of zone. DeJean, you are a Philadelphia Eagle. Pairing him with Quinyon Mitchell, that's going to be a threatening DB duo. I struggle to really label DeJean as a corner because he can really do everything. Or line up everywhere. I don't really like him as a man coverage guy, but he's not going to really be playing much man coverage, so I don't really care. Right? DeJean, very talented player. Him falling this far is crazy, and Philly was a team that needed a player like him. So, great job, Howie Roseman. That's something we're used to saying around this time every year. Another corner that fell, though, Kool-Aid McKinstry. He fell out of the 40s, out of the 30s, which I just find insane. Kool-Aid, I really like as a player. He's very pro-ready. The only thing there is, where's the ceiling, right? How much more does he have to offer besides what you saw on film? And I don't think he has much to offer beyond that. However, the player we saw on film was very, very high caliber. Him and Marshawn Lattimore, I think that's a good corner duo. I do think they might have had bigger needs, but McKinstry here, this is great value. This is great value for him. He's going to fit that defense. He's going to play really well. He's going to be a good player for them for years. There's not a chance this guy busts. He's going to be good. It's just a question of how good, right? I don't think there's a world where he ends up being like a Pro Bowler or an All-Pro, but he's going to be a good, solid player for a very long time. And I think that's what the Saints want. Kool-Aid McKinstry, you are a New Orleans Saints, and I think that is a good thing. And then the Texans, they bring in a slot corner in Kamari Lassiter. Very, very high caliber slot corner. Putting him in a zone-heavy DeMeco Ryans defense, absolutely love it because he's a very good zone defender. Very good against the run, too. I mean, that's what you want in a slot corner. This guy is going to be one of the better slot corners in the NFL for a very long time. The Texans, they're in a position where they could afford to take a luxury pick, like a slot corner. And, well, they got their guy, and that guy is very good. He's a great scheme fit. I think they're in position to really maximize him. I am super impressed that they are able to land this kid. And I'm glad they did because this is like the perfect defense for someone like him. Like I said, zone defending guy, DeMeco Ryans, he's going to run a lot of zone in order to maximize him. Big fan of this. And the corner run continues with Max Melton, a speedy guy, going at 43. This is about where he should be going. Very talented player, a lot of upside. Not really much to say beyond that. Very fast corner. They need defensive help. They want more young defensive players with upside. That's what Gannon looks for, and Melton offers that. Just a safe, solid pick. This, though, I mean, the Raiders, they went 2 back-to-back, or not back-to-back, but the first 2 rounds, they didn't really care about position value, and I really do applaud that because this is a Raiders team that I think is a lot better than people think they are. A lot better than people think they are. Jackson Powers-Johnson is the top 7 player in the class for me, and they landed him with the 44th pick. That's great value, and I think they are in a position where they can afford to draft a center. I think he's going to be a very good center for them, obviously. Like I said, I had him as a top 7 player in the class. I mean, taking him 44th overall, that's phenomenal value. He's someone that'll really put an extra little bit of pep in their step in terms of the run game, and he'll be a dominant Dominant pass blocker, too. I love this pick. Absolutely adore it. I'm still confused as to why he fell out of the first round. Packers take Edgerrin Cooper. He wasn't my linebacker one, but he was a lot of people's, and I get it. He has a lot of physical traits that you really like. The Packers wanted another linebacker to put with Quay Walker, a young linebacker to put on that defense. Cool. I mean, I don't love this pick, but I'm not going to act like it's a bad pick, right? Talented player, talented linebacker. The need was there. I get it. This is about where he should be going. Just a good, solid pick. This, though, I hate. I absolutely hate this. The Panthers, they are lacking. They are lacking on the defensive side of the ball now, especially after losing Brian Burns. They are lacking. And they decide to take a running back. Listen, I know your running back room isn't overly great, but first off, the running back you took is coming off an injury, which should hinder his performance. That running back himself, even ignoring the injury, probably isn't the best running back in the class, yet you still took him at the first running back off the board. And then, I mean, we talk about all the time, running backs just aren't a very valuable position. If you're a rebuilding team, prioritize everything else first. Okay? Maybe you take a running back later on in the draft. There were starting caliber running backs that went way later than this. You didn't have to take the injured guy. Okay? You really didn't. I don't get this at all. I think this is a really stupid pick. The only thing I'll give them is, the need was there. The need was indeed there. So, I can't give it an absolute 0. I can't even give it a 2. I probably should have gave it a 3. This is, giving it a 4 is generous. It absolutely is. I know some people like Brooks a lot more than me. I'm not big on him or his game. I hate that he's coming off an injury. That definitely scares me away. I would have went defense here, but clearly they're just prioritizing helping Bryce Young and really being able to evaluate him as a quarterback this year. That's their top priority. I just don't know if Brooks is really going to help them do that too much. Tyler Nubin, safety from Minnesota. He went to the New York Giants. After losing Xavier McKinney, they needed a new safety without a doubt. And, Nubin is a very talented guy. Very smart player. Okay, that's the main thing you see about him. He's very smart. He's a high IQ player. You gotta love that. He will be like a field general for them. Even though he's a young guy, he'll be a field general for them. New defensive coordinator. Very different defense, right? I still love him, though. He plays with very high effort. Not the most athletic guy in the world, but he's not exactly lackluster in that area either. I like Tyler Nubin, and I really like what he's going to offer to the New York Giants. I'm a fan of this pick, a very big one. This one, though, not so much. I like Mason Smith's upside. I still think this is a reach. I still think there were way better defensive linemen available. I still don't think that the Jaguars' defensive line is the problem. I think there's many other positions that should be taking priority over interior defensive linemen. I mean, you just paid some guys on that interior defensive line, so what are you doing drafting guys in round 2? Okay, you need depth? Cool. Attack that later on. Your cornerback room, they need help. Okay, your safety room, that needs help. I mean, interior offensive line absolutely needs help. So what are we doing taking Mason Smith when guys like Cooper Beebe are still on the board? Dominic Puny is still on the board. What are we doing taking Mason Smith? Okay. There were way smarter picks here. Way smarter picks. And even if you wanted to go interior defensive line that bad, there were definitely better guys available. I mean, they shouldn't have taken interior defensive line, yet they did. The only thing I'll give them here is Mason Smith has a lot of upside. Okay? I'll give them that. I don't like this pick very much, though. I'm not a fan. This is one of the better interior defensive linemen that I was talking about. Chris Jenkins, I'm a huge fan of him. He is a gap eater, man, and he shows a lot of pass rushing upside. Dominant anchor, absolutely dominant anchor. I think he's going to really be a great DJ Reader replacement. Oh my goodness, I'm super excited to see what he does on a Bengals defense that, with Lou Anarumo, it's always going to be a good unit. Chris Jenkins is going to be a key reason why let me tell you right now, with Jenkins and another guy that they added later on, it's going to be impossible to run on them. Impossible. Yeah, they lost DJ Reader. I don't think they care very much because this pick right here more than makes up for it. I'm a big Chris Jenkins guy. Very big Chris Jenkins guy. Super excited to see what he does. He should be a dominant force for them on the line of scrimmage. Some people really like Mike here. Some people really like Mike. And I got to admit, despite being a smaller guy, he can defend the run and tackle very well. But that's in college. I don't know if I feel that way in the NFL. I really don't. I think he plays too big for a player his size. And to some, that's a good thing. To me, I don't think that works very well in the NFL, like I said. However, the Commanders did need a corner. And I don't think he's like a bad player by any means. This is a meh pick to me. It fills a need, or should fill a need. I don't love the player, but they needed a corner, and they got their guy. It's not really a reach. This is about where he was supposed to go. Okay. I'm not a fan of it, but I'm not going to hate on it either. Very similarly to how I feel about this one, I know some people really love this pick, and I really like the identity that the Steelers are going for. You know, smash mouth football. Let the defense win the games for us. I do really like that, and I am excited to see if that old school type of approach to the game works out. I am. However, I'm just not a big Zach Frazier guy. Very simple. I didn't hate him, but 51st, you know, that's about where he was supposed to go, and I don't love him at the 51st pick. I really don't. I'm not a big fan of his game whatsoever. You know, second round, I don't see him as a second round caliber player. But again, he fills a need. Other people disagree with me in terms of my evaluation of Zach Frazier. I'm not going to disrespect the pick too much. It's just a meh for me. This player, though, this is great value. This is a player that I fell in love with pre-draft. A.D. Mitchell. I see him as a stud. I think he's an absolute stud. Electrifying player. Unbelievable route runner with a lot of speed, and he has size too. Okay? The only reason that this isn't a 10 out of 10 is I don't think wide receiver was their biggest need, but the value is irrefutable. The value is irrefutable. A.D. Mitchell, insane player. Insane football player. And they could afford to get a little bit more help at the receiver position. Now, I do think a starting three of Michael Pittman, Alec Pierce, and Josh Downs is a good one. A.D. Mitchell, Michael Pittman, and Josh Downs / Pierce. Alec Pierce is even better. Okay, it's just that simple. I don't think it was a demanding need for them. I think they had demanding needs that they should have approached instead, or could have approached instead. But the value here of A.D. Mitchell at 52, irrefutable. I gotta love it. I can't give it a 10 out of 10 because it doesn't help them with one of their major weaknesses, but I still do really, really like this pick and the value here. This is a player I thought would have fell a little bit further, but I do like him enough for him to be taken 53rd. I hate the scheme fit, though. I really thought Sinat was going to find himself switching to fullback. I thought that he would really fit, a Kyle Juszczyk role in one of these other Shanahan teams. But instead, he went to an air raid football team that won't use a fullback. I don't think he'll suck in that type of situation. I just don't think he'll be maximized. He will be their best tight end, though. I mean, yeah, I like Sinat, even when he's not playing this fullback Kyle Juszczyk role. I just don't think he's going to be maximized, which does disappoint me. But it fills a need for them, so I'm not going to hate it. It's a little bit of a reach, but I'm not going to hate it. Michael Hall Jr., this is another defensive tackle that, a lot of defensive tackles went round two. I didn't love all the ones that went. I really didn't, but Hall is someone that'll help this Cleveland defense get to the quarterback as if they were already bad at it. And, that's my main thing here, right? I don't think defensive tackle was some huge need for them. It felt like they were very strong on the defensive line. Now, maybe that's just because Myles Garrett's Myles Garrett. And, getting him help can only be a good thing. But I don't think Michael Hall is this player that I look at and I'm like, oh, yeah, we got to take him. unless, you're a team that really needs a defensive tackle. I thought that the Browns were really in a position to take best player available, yet they went Michael Hall Jr. with the 54th when there were definitely better players at other positions. I don't hate the pick. I just feel like they could have done much better. So I'm giving it a 6 out of 10. I don't think defensive tackle was some huge need that they had to go ahead and take a player like Michael Hall. I really don't. This pick I hate. I'm going to keep it a buck. I hate this pick. The only positive with this, and I think this was their process, is Teron Armstead is going to be retiring soon. So we need a tackle. Okay. Fine. Patrick Paul is decently similar to him. Okay. But this is a team that's trying to compete right now. He can't move into guard. He has never played guard. He is too tall to play guard. So he's not going to help you right now. You're weak on the interior offensive line. Your offensive tackles, though, are very good. So what are we doing taking a pure offensive tackle? Why don't you take a swing tackle here, right? What are we doing taking Patrick Paul when every interior offensive lineman except Zach Frazier and Jackson Powers-Johnson is on the board? What are we doing taking Patrick Paul? I feel like that is absolute insanity. But Patrick Paul is supposed to go around here, so it's not like this is much of a reach. And again, I think this is a plan for the future. So I still gave it a 4. But let me tell you right now, I really, there's a part of me that wishes I put a 3. This is, if I could do 3.5, I would absolutely give this a 3.5. Because I understand the process. I think he could fill their demands fine, right? Their demands of a future offensive tackle. And, they didn't reach on him either. But, man, I look at this and I just say, what are we doing? You want to win now, or are you just building for the future? What's going on? I don't like this pick at all. I really feel like they should have taken more of a win-now approach. Marshawn Kneeland is a player I don't really like much, but I acknowledge the upside. The upside's phenomenal. He can be a dominant force on their interior defensive line, an interior defensive line that was getting ran all over in games like that Bills game. He can be a dominant force for them. However, there's a lot of refining you need to do with him because he has a lot of strength, but there's a lot of work to be done. A lot of work to be done. Very raw player, but the upside is absolutely there. This is about where he was supposed to go. I give it a 6 out of 10. Chris Braswell is a player I'm a big fan of. Okay. I like him around the 57th pick. He's a much better edge than people give him credit for, and I think he gets underrated because Dallas Turner played with him. But he's a very good player in his own right. He has the ability to drop back into coverage when you ask him to. Talented rusher. I'm a Braswell guy. Buccaneers need some edge help. Their linebackers are only getting older. They need someone to, really man down that spot for them. The Joe Tryon-Shoyinka experiment really hasn't gone too well. Maybe you want some more young blood to potentially replace him, and if not replace him, at least replace the older guys on that team. I like Braswell. I think he can be a really impactful player for them for down the line. Javon Bullard was my favorite safety. I thought he was much better than anyone was giving him credit for. I think he was the undisputed top safety, really. I thought he was much better than every other safety. I thought he was a round 1 caliber player, and he fell all the way down to 58. This is one of the better value picks of the entire draft. The Packers having him with Xavier McKinney, and they have some talented guys in the cornerback room, and Jair Alexander, Eric Stokes. Man, I mean, that secondary is going to be dangerous. It's going to be one of the best young secondaries in the entire NFL. Javon Bullard is going to be a key reason why. I think there's a very likely chance we look back at this pick 3 years from now, 4 years from now, and say they really got a top 5 safety in the NFL with the 58th pick. That's insanity. Because I do think he is that caliber of player. He is very, very good. I'm telling you right now, he has a complete skill set. Very talented player. Him going 58 still baffles me, and I think he's going to fit that new Packers defensive scheme very well. Blake Fisher here. I mean, it's fine. Fisher's supposed to go about here. I mean, I'm not going to give you any overwhelmingly long speech, right? The fact is, he got overshadowed by Joe Alt. He did. But I'm not going to act like he's some amazing player. He's a player you expect to go late second round, and that's where he did. He's some tackle depth for them. You know, they have older guys that get hurt. Last year, a lot of their guys got hurt, like halfway through the season, even early in the season. And they were still able to hold up because CJ Stroud's an animal. But when you got that franchise quarterback, you got to be able to protect him. Fisher might not have much of an impact right now, but I think down the line he can be a starter for them. You know, he showed some flashes of like elite play. There were just some consistency issues. I think if they could get the most out of him, though, he could be a phenomenal player. Cole Bishop, we all know they lost their old veteran safeties. Cole Bishop plays like a veteran, though, and he plays a lot like Micah Hyde. He does. He's a coverage specialist, a single high, two high safety specialist. He's very good in zone coverage. He covers a lot of ground. He is like a Micah Hyde in a lot of ways, so I think a young replacement for Micah Hyde, definitely a fair approach here. Absolutely. He plays like a Jordan Poyer, a lot like a Micah Hyde, like I said. He'll play that role for them. You know, the Bills are rejuvenating themselves with young talent. Bishop is going to be their young safety of the future. I don't think he's ever going to be this unbelievable stud, but I think he's going to be a good coverage safety for them, and that's all they wanted. Some people love this pick. I know some people do, but I'm not a big Rakestraw fan. I'm sorry. I'm really just not. However, I do love the scheme fit. He's a man coverage cornerback, okay, and he's going to play physical. That's what the Lions want, right? The Lions want a physical guy. That's their culture. They want someone that's physical, wants to get in your face, and someone that's very good in man coverage. Aaron Glenn runs a lot of man coverage. Rakestraw is a very good man coverage corner. Some people think this is a steal. I see it as a player going a little bit early because I still don't love Rakestraw. But it's not a bad pick. To me, it's just a meh pick. Rosengarten, big offensive tackle. That's what the Ravens love. They needed their Morgan Moses replacement. They have Falele. I don't know if you really want to be starting him though. Rosengarten, he's at least going to compete for that starting spot year one. If he doesn't get it, well, he's more of a developmental project. He might start when guys like Ronnie Stanley are gone, right? So this is just another body to throw into that tackle room. He has every right to be going around this pick. I like this for the Ravens. Just another offensive tackle to really compete for the honor of replacing Morgan Moses. That's really what I see this as. This pick I love. I do love this pick. Kingsley Suamataia, right? The Chiefs, we know Andy Reid. He is so great at developing these offensive tackles, especially these big, strong athletes. Okay, he is one of the best coaches I've ever seen at just bringing in these raw, undisciplined, just not technically sound offensive tackles. And then all of a sudden, in a year or two, they become like all pros. He is so great at it, and I think Suamataia is going to be a great example of that. I really do. He's such a great athlete. He is so strong, and he has the versatility to play interior offensive line. Offensive tackle, he could do it all. They're probably going to use him as an offensive tackle because last year their offensive tackles weren't good. Just simple as that, they weren't good. Mataia could be a change of pace for that. He could be a lot better. And I wouldn't be surprised if he becomes one of the better tackles in the league because his ceiling is remarkably high. Andy Reid is going to get him to that ceiling. I love this fit. I absolutely love it. And then the last pick of the second round, Renardo Green, just a talented cornerback that could really help that 49ers defense. I mean, the coverage ability is really impressive. That's what you look for in a cornerback. That's what the 49ers needed, right? I mean, you want to win a Super Bowl, you got to get guys that could cover. It's just that simple. Green can do that, cover long enough to let Nick Bosa get to the quarterback. He could do that. So, I'm a fan of this pick. Anyway, that's all for this video. I hope you all enjoyed. If you want more content, feel free to subscribe, maybe even leave a like, assuming you enjoyed. If you want more of my other content, feel free to look in the description for my YouTube and my Twitter, which should be linked below. And if you haven't watched part 1, I highly recommend that. That is on my channel. It was the first video I posted before this. Check that out. I highly recommend it. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you all again next time.